Hey everybody, guess who? I thought I'd drop in again and talk to you about some Tekken 7 news. Haven't done that in a while, and there's been a little bit of drama going on. Usually I don't comment on drama, but I do think it's a good time because some of the discussion that's been coming up, in my opinion, is at least worth having. So in case you haven't heard, Fakumram, who is the latest DLC character for Season 3 of Tekken 7, has dropped last week. And of course, alongside him was a balance patch. Now, the balance patch is really more interesting to me because, I've already got a main character. I'm probably not going to swap at this point 20 years later. But none of the DLC characters this season have been very exciting, in my opinion. Julia I could have done without. I'm glad for the Julia players that she's back. Safina, I was just sure we were never going to see again because nobody used her. And then Leroy, as cool as he looks, was just an absolute broken train wreck. Still is incredibly strong and is kind of a sign of the overarching problems with Tekken as a series. And same thing I think with Fakumram. I'm not going to get too big into him today, but I think he's just another symptom of some more problems Tekken has. But anyway, if you've been under a rock in this patch, probably the most controversial thing they did was that they took Kazuya and the Mishima's Hell Sweep, and they made it so that it tracks both ways, aka it can no longer be sidestepped. And most of you know why that's a bad idea, but just so you do know, if you don't, Kazuya's Hell Sweep is an unseeable low. It's really a move that it knocks down, it's low, it comes out very quickly unless you have insane reflexes or just like godlike at the game. Really, you have to more predict that it's coming. You can't really just block it on reaction. You have to read your opponent and predict it. And obviously that's a skill that maybe 10% of Tekken players have. Only at the highest level do you get to the point where you can start predicting moves. Obviously the more you do it, the more you're gonna get better at it. But I'm just saying, for your average person who logs onto the game and plays a few ranked as their law or whatever it is, it's probably not an ability that the average person is going to get. And so that was a pretty bad change, at least for the majority of the community's opinion. So if you didn't know, Katsuhiro Harada was promoted thanks to his good work on Tekken, and Michael Murray, who was the assistant, has now taken over the direction of the Tekken series. Well, naturally, after a controversial change such as this, people took to Twitter, because he does maintain a very prominent Twitter presence as the head of all things Tekken. So people took to Twitter to complain to him, and he dropped this tweet. It says, why would you want to sidewalk if you can block and launch if you know it's coming, like all other moves? And the community just had to come apart at this because there's several problems with this. One, it's like Harada. Harada always played the game, but he will tell you he's not the best. But a tweet like this, when you go out there and you try to give advice about playing the game, that sets you in a completely different position versus Harada, who was just out here saying, we're making these changes because we feel they're good, versus here's why you should do this, and I'm telling you this as if I know the game. Whereas 9 times out of 10, the developers of any fighting game doesn't play the game at a competitive level. They just watch and kind of react to what they see. So when Michael Murray said something this tone deaf about, it's one of the quickest, most dangerous moves in the game, why don't you just block and launch? No big deal, just block it, bro. Naturally, the Tekken community have a come apart. So after this, that causes a firestorm on Reddit, Twitter. Everybody's fussing about it. Murray gets upset. And I've been critical of him before because he just does not handle criticism well. Harada, he took a ton of crap from everything from people who thought the balance was bad to people that just wanted Kunimitsu back in the game. And he just plays it off. It never really gets to him. You can tell that he doesn't care. And I think that's the way you have to be professionally. When you put yourself out there as the representative of a product for a company, especially one like this, I think that the bad just comes along with the good. If you're willing to put yourself out there, you have to be willing to take the trolls and the vitriol. Harada was very much able to do that and deal with it. Michael Murray does not. I really believe he takes a lot of this stuff personally, and it's a bad look for Namco, and it's a bad look for the company and Tekken in general. And that's an unpopular opinion, I think. I got downvoted for saying something similar on Twitter. I'm not Twitter, on Reddit a couple weeks ago. I said, look, it's unprofessional, Murray. It's not fair that people are mean to you, and they shouldn't do that. Don't go and watch this video and be mean to him on Twitter. That's not what I'm saying do. What I am saying is that when you put yourself out there like that, you have to be willing to accept it. And I know people say, oh, well, I get death threats. I bet you do, but 99.9% of them are not serious. You know, I only have about 600 something odd subs, and I've had some terrible things said to me over the years. I just try to laugh it off and you know, go along with my life, because you put people behind a keyboard and they become a warrior. But Murray seems to take it personally, and so he ends up embarrassing himself and embarrassing Tekken, I think. Now, I'll give him credit. He did apologize for this comment and said that it was kind of stupid and he should have said something more thorough. But, you know, it's too late. Once you put it out there, it's out there. You can't undo it. And so things go on a bit. They calm down a bit. Murray streams. He streams Tekken from time to time. So he has a stream, and he says basically he's done with Twitter. He's quitting Twitter forever, which honestly I think is kind of a good move. I wish Namco would put like a community manager or some sort of PR person out there who understands the Twitter sphere a little bit better. But Twitter's a cesspool anyway. But anyway, he says he's quitting, and so Flying Wonky posts a big article about it, and then Eris takes it down, and so everybody gets mad at Eris because they think he's shilling. But and then he comes back and says, look, Tekken and fighting games have sucked for a while. I don't care anymore. People were asking me for my opinion, so that's why I wanted it to be taken down, because I don't care anymore. And that's really the more telling thing about all this. If somebody like Eris, a pillar of the fighting game community, says he doesn't even care about the games anymore because he doesn't enjoy them, he doesn't enjoy what they become, I think that's very telling. So Murray and Harada and the whole Twitter thing, yeah, it's stupid and it's wonky and goofy and all that, but who really cares? You know, it's all about the game at the end of the day. And I think a lot of the complaints from the people who aren't like telling him to go die and stuff, I think they're very legitimate. And Harada and his team are not really listening to those complaints. And they're not really doing what's best for the game, at least according to the majority of players. Now, this isn't the end of the story. So Murray goes, and during his stream, and you can read the transcript of this because he says he will ban people who clip him, who make clips and post them at other places. Yeah, again, just you're taking it too personally, my man. If you can't handle yourself, stay off those channels because you're embarrassing yourself and you're embarrassing your brand. So anyway, he decides that he's going to talk a little bit about the state of Twitter and the game and what it takes to make the game during this Twitch stream where people can ask him questions. And I'm going to put a link to it below. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's several pages long. But there is a lot of good insight in there as to kind of what's going on with Tekken and what's some of the balance team's mindset. And the long and the short of it is basically Murray, he does make a lot of good points about how at the end of the day, he has to go before these Japanese executives and convince them that Tekken, which is now a 3 or 4 year old console game, that's not even counting the arcade, he has to go convince them that this is something that is worth putting more money, more corporate money into to make a profit off of. And he talks about how, you know, the balance isn't just that easy because you can't just change things completely based off competitive players because 90% of people aren't competitive players. But at the same time, you can't just make the game so brain dead to enjoy that nobody enjoys it anymore. And those are some really good points that he makes in there. And again, I'm going to put the link to this below so that you can see it. And, you know, having read this, I actually empathize with him a little more because I can understand that he's between a rock and a hard place with, you know, his bosses and his executives, which, you know, channels his livelihood and what he has to do every day. And on the other side, you have this fan base community, which is just a mob, right? Like, there is no board of directors or boss or anything for the fan base. It's just this amorphous blob of yelling voices. And, you know, people that get a bunch of voices in their head go crazy. And so he's torn between the two of these. So I really think you should go read this if you're one of these people now that just absolutely hates Michael Murray's guts because of what you feel he's doing to the series. Because there's a lot of stuff in here where he talks about, like, you know, they tried to listen to top players and they ended up with Tekken Tag 2, which sold terrible. And so they had to go back to more casual players with Tekken 7, which sold a lot better. And just how he has to play politics kind of to get both sides what they want. I don't envy his position at all. So what was really my whole point in this video, really just to bring you up to speed on what's been happening if you've been behind a rock and you haven't seen it, but to also talk about some of my opinions about the problems with the current game. And so just, I said earlier, I thought Fakamram and Leroy they're really kind of the same character, honestly. And what I mean by that is the Tekken that a lot of us love, which is a slow and methodical, almost a chess match type of game, is just going away, it feels like. Now it's all about 50-50s. It's all about big power move combos and just things that end rounds very quickly. And that's disappointing to me, but I really think that's the direction the series is going. And especially playing someone like Lee, it's very frustrating sometimes. And again, I know I'm signing myself up for trouble playing as Lee, but he has to play a very counter hit heavy, methodical poking game and have decent execution to win. But it's very frustrating sometimes because a lot of times I'll play a match against these newer characters like Leroy or Fakamram or the Mishimas now or other characters like King. And it's like you can outplay these people the whole round. But then you make one mistake, counter hit launch. Bam. Okay, you get juggled. No problem, juggles happen. Well, there's 60% of your life or more. Now you're in a corner. What are you going to do? You're going to wake up. Well, wake up's a 50-50. If you guess wrong, wall combo. And when you're talking about damage in upwards of 60% of your life bar with one combo, well, what's going to happen? You're dead. So basically, I can play this really hard game where I have to play perfectly, and then I do really well, but it's all nothing as soon as the other guy gets a lucky counter hit. And there is skill. Some people are going to place those counter hits and things well. And you can say, oh, just block, bro, or just lab it out, bro. And you can, that's true. But does it sound like a very fun game to you when you play your absolute best and then with one mistake your entire health bar is gone? And I'm not even talking about balancing. Something really simple that I've seen a lot of people float around is just increase the max health for every character. Because at least at that point, there's a lot more that can happen in one match, so it feels like every match is more varied. It's not just a matter of who gets a launch first wins, because then you're just back to Tekken Tag 2 all over again. And ironically, that's what killed that game, honestly, in my opinion. It was incredibly complex to play, and the combo damage was so huge, it was just a bore and a chore to watch. And so it just died. So what does Murray need to do? Be quiet, I think. If you can't take the heat, do your job, but don't agree to be the face of your franchise. Hire a community manager or just let people go to Harada, or don't do any of it. Stay back behind the scenes. Get the balance team a Twitter so that we can tweet at them and then they can tweet explanations about why they did stuff, Let them do that. Hot take, I know. But I just think he needs to just scale back. If he can't handle it, he's got to scale back. And I don't have anything personal against the guy. I just, I've got very close family members that are in PR and have ran social media for companies. And it's not a fair matchup being PR. And the matchup, between you and the angry customer base, it never works out in the company's favor. When you get mad and you say things like that and you take things personally, you always lose, regardless. Whether you were in the right or not, you are going to lose, unless you be professional 100% of the time. And Murray doesn't seem to be able to do that, at least not now. Maybe one day he'll kind of grow into it, but for as far as I've seen him, no, he has not been able to do that. But what does it matter? I'm just a 600-plus sub guy here on YouTube. Doesn't matter. It's just my opinion. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video. There's going to be some more Secret Characters podcast episodes coming up. I've got 2 recorded right now, one of which I have to edit, one of which is completely done. And so those will be up very soon. I'm looking forward to getting both of those up there because they were just really fun conversations, and I want you guys to be able to listen and take part in that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and sub and all that fun stuff if you enjoyed the video. I do appreciate every bit of interaction, support, thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, comment, whatever. All of it helps. I do greatly appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching.